Hey, it's Pat Monahan back with you on another edition of the Patcast. This week, we're getting a few podcasts teed up for you as we will be heading out with Train and a bunch of other musicians and fans on the Sail Across the Sun cruise. That starts on Valentine's Day. We're looking forward to some fun, warm weather, sunshine, and full disclosure, we're slightly terrified about the potential lack of phone service. But don't worry, we'll be updating Instagram as soon as we hit dry land, and the Patcast will air every Monday as scheduled. Fret not. Vince Gill, originally from Oklahoma, he joined a country rock group called Pure Prairie League. I remember walking in on my sister playing that record and that laying on her bed. Great memory for me because I love that band. That went pretty well for him. He started off on a solo career in 1983, and that went well too. That went incredibly well. So phenomenally well, in fact, that it earned him 20 Grammys and a spot in the Country Music Hall of Fame. I asked him if I could have a Grammy. He said no. If you don't watch the Grammys or you don't know much about the Country Music Hall of Fame, that's okay. I'll just tell you right now, Vince Gill is one of the greatest guitar players of all time. He's so good at guitar that it's frightening, and that's pretty great, right? Like, how amazing would it be to be a scary good guitar player? Maybe as amazing as being a scary great singer. He's probably... I've never heard a better singer. He's definitely one of the greatest of all time at singing. And the first time I heard him sing was a Beach Boys song in New York City at a benefit, and I was like torn between incredibly impressed and wanted to quit the music business. So he's that good. I've heard this guy sing and play live quite a few times, and he is captivating when he plays. When he sings, it's just like he'd have a hard time finding a bad note. Like, in general, he doesn't really know where a bad note is. It's kind of makes me sick. Anyway, I first met Vince at a benefit show for the Country Music Hall of Fame. I performed with Ashley Monroe, Greg Allman, Warren Haynes played, and Jason Aldean played. Emmylou Harris and Rodney Crowell were there. And every one of them was an amazing talent in their own right. But when Vince played, it wasn't just the audience that perked up their ears. Every musician on the stage couldn't help but notice just how talented this guy is. It's kind of remarkable. It was that day that he happened to mention to me that he's a scratch golfer as well. I had to ask him about that to start the interview because, I mean, come on. That's just like getting too much, right? Anyway, on top of all of that, he's a lovely, gracious, really great guy. And he invited me and Pergo over to his house in Nashville. We stole some shit, no big deal. And we recorded this interview in his studio, surrounded by what might be one of the greatest guitar collections in the world. He set up in there, and we talked, and he played, and it was really one of the highlights of the Patcast. On the way over, our rental car decided that it didn't need a transmission anymore, so we lurched towards his house at 10 miles an hour. It was kind of comical, and had to get a tow truck to take the car away. We felt bad about it, but of course, it didn't faze Vince one bit. Hey, Vince, sorry we're late. Our car is broken. No big deal. Hey, Vince, you mind if a huge flatbed truck pulls up in front of your house at 11 p.m.? Sure, man, that's fine. And that's about what it's like being around Vince Gill. He's just a great guy that happens to be an enormous talent. He's working on a record right now, and he's always playing with somebody, somewhere. It's just his lot in life to be musical all the time. He's a bit of a musical hero for me. So it was a hell of a day, and getting to sit in a room and ask him all about his life and his music was an honor for both me and Pergo. Me at first, and then Pergo was like, man, this guy's all right. See, Pergo has a Nashville accent or some kind of southern accent now. It used to be a New Jersey accent, but since we've been hanging out in Nashville so much, it's starting to wear off on him. So without further ado, here he is, this week's Patcast, Vince Gill.
What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking. What do you do? What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking at you. You got to get it while the getting is good. Laugh when you can, cry when you should. You got to give it till the giving is gone. Do what you can, then you move on.
Hey, I'm Pat Monahan, and you're listening to the Patcast, of course, and I'm here with, I don't know how to categorize you because you're as great a singer, as a guitar player, as a writer, as a producer, and everything else, but here's a man from Nashville called Vince Gill, and thanks for doing the podcast with me.
Man, my pleasure. Great to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you, man. And there's only one beef I have with you, and that's that you explained to me that you were a scratch golfer the first time I met you, and unfortunately, Wikipedia says that you are a 1 or a 2 handicap. So I want to know why you're lying about your handicap on the golf course.
Well, you got to get shots wherever you can. No, I've played my whole life, and I'm sure my handicap fluctuates as most of golfers' handicaps do, and it's always been around scratch. And it got to be a +1 at one point when I was really playing a lot and working at it. But
man, that's amazing.
Some days it's not anywhere close to it. But
and you don't play as much as you used to, huh? Golf.
I still do. I still play quite a bit. I'm crazy about the game. I was probably almost as passionate about golf as I was about music.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, if you're that good of a golfer, right? Because not many people are. Very few people can break 100. They say 75% of the people that go out on the course can't break 100. Why? I guess, when did you make the choice between the two? Because there probably had to have been a choice at some point, hasn't there?
Well, to some degree. I think, I often get asked the question, what would you do if you weren't a musician? I said, well, I would have tried to be a golfer, but I just really, music was always, it was like in my blood.
Why? How come? You're from
Oklahoma? It just was always around.
What was the story behind all of it?
Well, I think it's probably pretty typical. I think most people that really become interested in creativity have it around them, whether it was church or whether it was, for me, it wasn't church. It was my father played a little bit. He played the guitar very simply, and banjo, same, not very good, but loved it, and always records around the house, and his mother played the piano.
So there was always music in your house, right?
There was.
I see we're in your studio here, and you have a ceramic Elvis Presley singing over things. Was Elvis one of the things that you grew up listening to?
I liked Elvis. I probably enjoyed the early Elvis more than the late Elvis, but still, even the late Elvis songs like In the Ghetto and some of those kinds of things were great. Suspicious Minds and some of those records were killer, but I liked all the rockabilly stuff with Scotty Moore.
Yeah. And so, what did you learn how to play guitar to? Were you listening to? Do you have a guitar hero? Because you play like you could have been in any band, heavy metal band or anything. Man, you can blaze on a guitar.
I liked them all.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Chet Atkins would have been the first hero I had, when I had his records and my parents had his records. And as I got older, obviously all the British guitarists would have been very influential, like Clapton and Jimmy Page, and as I had those records too. And I was the youngest kid in my family, so my big brother had records, my sister had records, and it was
Did
long.
any of them pick up a guitar?
None of them were musical. My brother played a tiny bit, but not very much. And I just, I was drawn to it, and I liked all kinds of. I just seemed to like all kinds of music. Like I said, whether it was Chet or Eric Clapton, it didn't really matter. I liked all kinds of players.
You always lean towards like country western more than being in a Rolling Stones type of project.
Probably, I think. I went to where I was best suited. I think I can, like you said, I can play. I kind of hold my own just about wherever you try to lead me, but. What I really am drawn to is I really love country music, and I really love bluegrass music. I played a lot of bluegrass as a teenager. As I got going, I got really immersed in bluegrass, and my first jobs for several years were with bluegrass bands. That's what led me to California.
Was Rodney's band, Rodney Crowell, was his band that you joined, was that a bluegrass band?
No, not at all. I was a singer-songwriter. Rodney from Texas was originally... with Emmy Lou Harris in her first incarnation of
You
a
were
band.
Rodney.
Rodney was.
Yeah, right.
And they were big mentors of mine, Rodney and Emmy. And I moved out there as a 19-year-old kid to California.
You moved out to Texas?
to L.A.
Oh, to L.A.
And I met Rodney the first night I played in L.A. at the Troubadour.
Oh, really?
And we were...
You played with...
I opened for Guy Clark, another songwriter, with a band I was playing with. And we met and have been fast friends ever since. And more of a country rock thing that Rodney was doing back then, playing with Emmy, writing songs for her, and had his own thing going. And we were a big part of all of that, and just stayed friends throughout all these years.
Yeah, that's. I find that country music, unlike what I've experienced in rock, is that there's a community here that's kind of never broken. Like you guys just keep latching different people into the family. It's a tight-knit family, but it's not to be fussed with. You find that to be true? Like, do you have a lot of friends outside of country music?
I do.
In other departments of music?
I do. And I think that most of the really musical people here are that way too. I don't think it's a closed shop here at all. I don't know that I ever did think it was. I think even you go back to Nashville's real infancies days of the 40s and 50s, you had guitar players in town like there was a guy named Hank Garland, and he could hang with any jazzer you wanted to put him with, and so this town, musician wise, has always been diverse and has always been welcoming of all musicians.
Right.
Maybe the business side of things might have been different, the record companies and what they wanted to portray and sign. And I mean, Nashville's had, I think, a hard time shedding its image of just a country music town.
Right. Well, bands like the Black Keys and Kings of Leon are here now. So they're
Jack White is here.
Yeah, Jack White's here. That definitely changes things.
But, Dylan came here and made a record in the early 60s. And a lot of people found their way here because they like the musicians, and we're not far from Muscle Shoals,
right?
And that whole world, that kind of southern influence of those white boys that could play greasy, and
right.
That was always desirable. A lot of people didn't know those guys were white guys, the Muscle Shoals boys. So I just think like I said, there's always been this great community of pretty musical people that were a lot more broad-minded than we ever got credit for.
Right. No. Yeah, I don't. I'm not saying that you guys are a closed family. I'm saying you're a close family, and that closeness is really lovely. Like I'm complimenting Nashville because I don't find country music to be anything but a place where like there's a lot of normalcy here. It's strange for me. Like every room I go into to either write or have a conversation or do like a Johnny Cash event or anything that I've been really very lucky to do. Like when we met at All for the Hall, which is for the Country Music Hall of Fame, and that was in New York. Like to be on that stage with you and Rodney and all the others was a maybe the biggest moment in my career because I think of all of you as legends and the people who are my age or younger, they're future legends. So I felt like really honored. And every household that I go into to write songs or every studio, it's like, hey, come on in and stay here forever, like in my heart kind of thing, like. You're a family, and it's really, I don't find that in my world of rock and roll. Like even during like now it's more that way because iTunes I think has made it so that there's not a shelf space, so you can actually be friends instead of wanting to out each other. But back in the day, man, there was not a lot of camaraderie where I always thought, man, that's too bad that we can't root for each other.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
hate the opening band or we're the opening band. I hate the headliner, but here it's like I don't know, man. It's something is very unique about it.
Well, I think that if you look at the history of this town and see what it's become in its early days, there wasn't very much at stake. Everybody rooted for each other because everybody needed it. Everybody needed to make a living. Everybody needed to band together and tour together and go out as cheaply as they could.
The hip-hop guys did that. They learned from you.
because when rap music started to become a thing, they came together and everybody was on each other's records and writing together, and it was a together unit. And man, I learned a lot from watching them.
Yeah, and it's always been that way here. The songwriting community, there's always been that beauty of people writing songs together. Everybody helped everybody out.
Is there anyone that you can say is a huge hack and should leave town right away? Come on, Vince. You got to give me one hack
give
name.
me some good dirt and kill him with kindness. That's what I try to do.
You actually do that. I want to get into the kindness because our mutual friend, John Grady, who's Ashley Monroe's manager and also one of the divisions of Crush, who's in Nashville, he said that you and your wife, Amy, are absolutely Nashville's finest citizens. And and I thought that was interesting. Why? Because he said that you guys would rather be that than anything. And all the charity work that you guys do, all the fundraising. I even think of like charity work as like Monday nights. You play with an incredible band in a local bar and charge people $10 to come through the door or whatever it is, just to make sure that some of the guys can have lunch money or whatever. But I think of that as a lovely charitable thing for world-class musicians to let people see them close up like that. Is like your whole life is kind of like that. And so why are you like that? Like you seem to be the light of Nashville to me. Like every time I see you or anybody, if I talk about Vince Gill to anybody, like, oh, love him, man. He's the sweetest, greatest guitar player. Nobody can sing better, and he's the loveliest guy you'll ever meet. Is it because you're so good at those things that you're not mad at anybody?
No, I think it's because
I'm so mad.
I think I have a musician's heart. I have a musician's mentality, and I've always. I had a great run of solo success, but it never felt like anything other than a band. It still felt like a bunch of us going out there, and you're the guy that's going to sing the song. Okay.
Yeah.
But that, you don't get to be special. You're going to have a bunk on the bus like everybody else. And I think I approached everything.
You still behave that way?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Heck yeah. Why not? All you're going to do is, make it a drag for everybody else. You're going to get uppity.
Right.
So
But I think having your kind of talent has to play a role in it. But you were the last child of how many?
Three kids.
Okay, so were you being the baby? I was the baby. I was the last of 7, and in a lot of ways, it was a great benefit, and in other ways, it was a struggle trying to keep up and get attention and all the other things. But how was it for you being the last?
It was okay. It was mostly just me and my sister. My brother was 12 years older and was pretty much gone, a good bit of the time. And he had a really rough life and spent a good bit of his life kind of hoboing around the country and this and that. So I didn't know him. I knew him great, but he was just gone a lot. But it was me and my sis, and it was pretty normal. And she was tougher than me. She was a pretty tough kid, and I was the little one. And she used to wear me out. And then by the time I was old enough to whip her, it wasn't nice, so I couldn't get even.
But did she help you, like this charitable music heart that you have? Did she help kind of form that a little bit, like not letting you be a jackass, or like did it just come naturally? Because I always wonder, like, how it is. It's like the wiring of a human being, but also the environment of a human being combined with your bloodline. Like, so your parents, your environment, and then just you, they make up this thing, How much of this thing had to do with, like, your parents and what you saw and learned?
Well, I think for me, what my folks were better at than anything was keeping me level, keeping me grounded. And when I needed my butt kicked, I got my butt kicked. When I needed lifted up, I got lifted up.
Yeah.
And they were common sense people in Oklahoma. It's farm world, and people make a living out of the dirt, and it's very common sense minded. So you just do smart stuff, and you're going to be okay. And my dad was a strict guy. He ruled pretty hard, and so I didn't want to mess up. I didn't want to get that wrath,
Right.
And then as I left home, I don't think I could point to anybody in my family and say they were very charitable and did a bunch of things like that. That just came with time, and
Right.
it just my heart led me to want to be that way.
And plus, it's hard not to be when you have, right?
Exactly.
I sometimes get frustrated when I see things, and I shouldn't get frustrated because it has nothing to do with my life. Everybody has a different way of doing it. But I always wonder why everybody isn't like you. Like, why, if you have so much, isn't it just easy to provide a kind, be cool to everybody and provide
sure solve
that
a lot of problems, wouldn't it?
it just is. You're around. You make records with people now, right? You're producing people's records, like Ashley Monroe. And
Always
Ashley
have,
is
yeah.
a very down to earth, lovely woman. Had she been more of a diva, would you still have made a record with her if you were a fan?
I would have. It probably wouldn't have been as much fun.
Yeah, but you're
nobody
okay
likes
with
to
you're okay
deal
with
with that.
accepting people for who they are, and if you're a fan, you're a fan.
I think so. I think if you're going to really care about somebody, you have to love them at their worst
Yeah.
and not just their best.
But what if their worst is kind of what they're kind of they're normal?
there are deal breakers?
Yeah. I suppose I wonder that. Like, I always ask everybody I podcast with, or sometimes I ask, would you have been afraid to have met one of your heroes musically or in sports or anything, just in case they would have been like kind of shitty, and then you would have had a different view of them? And would that have changed anything for you?
Yeah, probably so.
Who would have been like the guy or the girl that had you met, you would have been floored, but had you met them and they were terrible people or they weren't kind to you, that you would have really just been devastated?
Well, I think all are your experiences. Mm-hmm. And I have friends that I've heard people say horrible things about. And I said,
really?
well, I didn't experience that. I don't have that viewpoint
Right.
that you might. I can understand why you might and all of that. I mean, every now and then I think I think that's what I enjoyed with my career, is that it took such a long time for me to finally break and do okay, is I got to watch a lot of people react to success.
Because you started so young, right? I mean,
Sure.
You were a great guitar player early. So what was the first time someone older than you recognized that and asked you to be a part of their stuff?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because that was the beginning of you watching.
Well, I know now that when somebody was kind to me and welcoming of me and accepting and all of that, it's lasted my lifetime.
Of course. That's
You know?
And me too. That's
Yeah.
why I try to be that. Like even when it's, it's not the most convenient time to be kind, it's just way harder to be mean. It's just
Takes
dumb,
a
takes too
pretty
much
good bit of
time
effort.
and more energy, and it just doesn't make sense.
No.
So who was your first project that called you into their world? Because I know that you spent some time with Pure Prairie League.
I did in the late 70s.
But it was just a stint, right? 3 years? you
3
said?
years, yeah.
But you sang one of their hits.
A song called Let Me Love You Tonight.
And how old were you when you sang that?
21, 22 maybe.
21, man.
Got to be on Dick Clark's American Bandstand.
Incredible.
Solid Gold.
See?
All those great shows. They were fun.
I told you you'd make it. That's got to be incredible. I mean, had I asked you a question like, what was one of the greatest moments of your life musically, you'd be like, man, this is like a 4-hour answer, right? I mean, you were on American Bandstand as big.
It was fun, and I just think that for me, all these years of doing this, if I felt successful when I paid the rent.
Yeah.
It wasn't the first #1 record, the first platinum record. It was none of those things really had much of an impact. That was, you felt grateful because you'd worked hard and
Right.
you felt like these songs were good enough to be popular or whatever. But at the end of the day, when I look back on 40 years of doing this, just the great fortune of squeaking a living out the whole time. I think there was a period of my life that was really telling to me of how I reacted and how I chose to do what I did. I'd had a couple of hits with Pure Prairie League in 79, 1980, and then I started a solo career and struggled for about 8 years without any success at all, really. And
were you making those records in Nashville?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I made 2 of them in L.A. and 1 of them here. And I moved here in '83, and the first record I made in L.A., and then the third one I went back out to L.A. to make. And then in 1989, Mark Knopfler came to see me.
And incredible, man.
Yeah,
just came to see you because
he invited me to join Dire Straits.
That's incredible, man.
And so here I was. I'd just gotten a new record deal, changed record companies. I'd had, like I said, 8 years of beating my head against the wall trying to accomplish something, and was mostly rejected. And he said, would you consider being in the band, going on this world tour? And it would have solved all of my economic problems.
Right.
You know, I was struggling to get the house note paid, and whatnot. And I told him, I said, man,
do you have children at this point?
Yeah, I have a daughter.
So you have
my first daughter, and she's
child.
7, I think, 7
one
years
child.
old.
You just moved to Nashville.
Yeah,
and this is happening
for 5 or 6 years, and I said, man, if I do this, to me, it's going to admit failure, and to what I'm trying to do. I think I have something to offer this country music world. You know, it hadn't panned out that way yet, but I can't give up on myself.
Wow.
And so I turned down the sure thing.
Right.
You know, and then, as you know, the story goes, then the next song was this song called "When I Call Your Name," and it was a monster hit. And sold millions of records.
Monster hit.
And all it, you know, you'd heard all these years. You know, all it takes is one. Just takes one great song, and I didn't believe that. I said, man, I don't know. I'm trying real hard. I can't seem to find that.
And you wrote that. Mm-hmm. And did you write that by yourself?
With a guy named Tim Dubois.
Dubois.
Du Bois.
Oh, yeah, Du Bois.
It's called Dubois, but it's Dubois.
Sure. Is he still doing it?
Oh, yeah, he's around. Great guy. He ran a record company for years here in town.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he went from being a writer to being...
Yeah, he probably still writes some. I hope he does. You know, he was good at it.
What do you find is the hardest thing about this life? You know, like, you have 5 children. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and... you've been through what I've been through, where you've been divorced, and then you found the girl you're supposed to be with, and you have a different kind of life, or that life now. You're here in Nashville. You make records for people. You're a very visibly recognizable guy here in town, and probably in most towns in America. And you're, you know, in the country world, you don't travel like the rock guys, because we go out for months, and country is typically like 4-day weekends. Is that the way you do it as well?
It is, yeah.
So of all of the things that have been challenging, from, you know, writing and working and touring, the failures and the successes, what have you found that you struggle with the most consistently?
Just time enough at home.
Time enough at home.
You know, guilt, I'd say, is it hammers you over the head pretty good. Just, you know, you miss a play, or you miss a thing like that.
But guys like us could stay home if we wanted.
Yeah, and I'm in the process of trying to get that accomplished a little more. Yeah, I've done this for 40 years, traveled and played, and you know, just nonstop as much as I could. When I married Amy in 2000, I kind of laid down that year and said I'm not going to work very much at all, and stayed home and try to figure out a way to build this new world, and we did, and it was great, and I think I'm due for another one.
Yeah.
Like
I wonder that about myself. Currently, I'm trying to write our next record, Train's next record, and a lot of what I'm doing, I leave going like, that is probably a terrible, terrible song. I maybe hope that I never hear that again. and then I leave and go like, that felt incredible. And then I hear it later and I go like, it's a terrible song. You know, this is a very difficult time for me in that writing process, because I don't know what it is I want to try to do. When I write with people here in Nashville, it's so different than everywhere else, because it's all about lyrics. And that's always been where I came from. And the people that I work with outside of Nashville, it's only about melody. You can sing whatever you want, who cares? Because we're going to we're going to make your vocal do this thing, and it's going to be straight and on point every time, and you're going to do the same thing over and over. And so the struggle is writing with all of these people and having things to say, but then maybe I shouldn't have said that. And then I wonder, because I just don't know where. How many times have you gone through this in your career where you just go like, I don't know where I'm at, and I don't know if I'm going to come out on the other side?
Well, I think I heard it said that art is never finished; it's just abandoned.
It's just abandoned.
Yeah,
yeah.
You just at some point you just got to let it go.
Yeah, right. Your record's never done. You just got to stop.
And I think with songs, you're always going to second guess yourself. But at the end of the day, what I've found is my ears don't lie to me. My ears have never lied to me. They'll tell you whether something's pretty good or not.
Yeah.
And I think that when you talk about songwriting here, it's got a great history, a great history of some amazing songs that were written here. But to me, the amazing songs are great lyrically and great melodically.
Both, of course.
They should be both. And to me, you take somebody like Roy Orbison, who was able to write his own songs, but he was able to take those melodies and make them just right for what his voice could do. How it could go up there and soar. And so that's what I've always tried to do is melodically be as engaged with what I did melodically as I did lyrically.
Right.
There's some people I write with here that strictly do music and I do lyrics, and vice versa. That they do lyrics and I do music.
Oh,
and
really?
There's no rules here,
that's
which
funny.
is kind of what I like.
See, I don't have a choice. I play the top E string and just rub my finger on each fret, and that's me being a guitar player.
Gotcha.
But is there a song that you feel like you're most proud of, having written either for yourself or somebody else, or even just having sung that wasn't yours?
Well, gosh, I like, as a song, I like I Still Believe in You a lot. I wrote with John Jarvis because I think it has a great lyric and it has a great melody, and it was a great record.
Is there any chance that you could play that?
I don't play it very good. I could.
Pretty
it's a piano
sure
song.
It's a piano song.
It's such a piano song that I can play it, but if you'd like.
Can you play it on guitar?
Yeah. That's my only choice. I can't play the piano.
I think anything you sing is kind of great, so it wouldn't matter. I don't know which guitar you should grab, Vince. You only have 300 of them.
The Guitar Whisperer. God, how did I not see that?
You didn't see all the guitars?
This is on.
Oh, you didn't? Oh.
You're gonna have to tell us a little bit about that guitar collection too.
Well, it's just insane. That's what it is. Because here's what you don't know. Is all these drawers have guitars in them.
Come on.
Yeah.
Why do you keep some of them in the drawers?
Just because I don't have room. So those drawers.
Those drawers all have guitars in them?
Along there. Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. Is that a Martin?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a post or pre-war Martin?
Pre-war.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
How many of those are... I'm told that John McBride has a handsome collection of those.
He has a nice collection, yeah.
Is it as nice as yours? Is it comparable?
I don't know what he's got.
Do you want me to try to steal some for you?
I bought a guitar from John.
You bought one from him?
I think this guitar was made in the 20s.
Why does it sound so good?
Because they made them good back then.
But they try to make them good now.
Yeah.
Is it because they're too precision perfect with computers now, and they never did that before? Is there a flaw to those guitars that maybe makes them more perfect?
No, I just think they... Like with Martin, I was told that between 1833 when they started and 1997, they made 750,000 instruments in 160 years. And between 97 and today, they've made 1.5 million. In 15 years, twice as many as it took them 100.
Oh, wow. Makes sense.
That's part of it, but also this wood. When they built these guitars, the wood was old. It was old growth wood, and now there's
Oh, right.
no really good old stuff.
It's amazing that a tree can sound like that. Thank goodness for trees sounding so good.
They're
And so
amazing.
who wrote I Still Believe in You?
Myself and a piano player named John Jarvis.
John Jarvis.
Yeah, he's one of the most talented guys I've ever met. I met him in L.A. in the '70s, and he played with Rod Stewart, and he's one of the top 2 or 3 piano player calls in town.
Wow, really?
People want
here in Nashville.
Yeah.
So he's here. Okay.
And he's lived both.
Do you do shows with him a lot? Because
Sometimes, he's been out with me off and on. He came and played the show with me that I did with Sting a couple years ago on that Crossroads show where they
Oh wow,
pair a rocker and a hillbilly.
man, that sounds like an amazing show.
Say when.
You're good.
Everybody wants a little piece of my time. Still I put you at the end of the line. Oh, how it breaks my heart to cause you this pain, to see the tears you cry falling like rain. Give me the chance to prove and I'll make it up to you. I still believe in you with a love that will always be. Standing so strong and true, baby, I still believe in you and me. Somewhere along the way, I guess I just lost track. Only thinking of myself, never looking back. For all the times I've hurt you, I apologize. I'm sorry it took so long to finally realize. Give me the chance to prove that nothing's worth losing you. Well, I still believe in you with a love that will always be. Standing so strong and true, baby, I still believe in you and me. Little croaky.
Man, have you ever done anything wrong?
Oh yeah,
Like, have you stole a car? Like, have you killed a guy?
not
'Cause
intentionally.
I think that might be the. It might, I've heard that song a lot of times, and I feel like I should give you one of my children for having played that right here, because I'm going to sell that and make so much money.
Good.
Like, really.
Spend it wisely.
good.
Invest it wisely. Invest in your future.
when you hear some people sing live, do you go like, man, I just don't know name a couple of people that have moved you in a way that you're like, man, I don't know how they do that, because that's what it feels like when me and most people are in a room with you.
Well, I like Kelly Clarkson's voice a lot.
She's a great singer.
I've always liked her records, but when I got under the headphones and did that duet with her of Don't Rush, And in the cans, you know, I could really hear her, you know, because I obviously had her cranked up to sing with her and stuff, and she had that kind of thing and quiver and shake and soul in her voice like Aretha Franklin. I'm not Aretha, but Gladys Knight, and it reminded me of Gladys Knight.
Really,
I got to do a
serious
duet with
compliment,
Gladys. Man. Yeah, and there's a kid here in town, Chris Stapleton.
Oh, that guy's nuts.
I was watching the CMAs last night from my seat, and Luke Bryan was singing, and then all of a sudden the chorus came and the harmony singing. I said,
That
"What was that?"
Chris.
And it was Chris.
He was sitting on the stool.
Yeah, he wrote the song with Luke, and it's just like I said, "What was that?" And about a second in, I looked and I said, "Oh, no wonder it's great."
That's why it sounds
Chris.
so good.
But he's that kind
magical.
of singer, you know.
Man.
CeCe Winans, I don't know if you ever heard her sing.
Yeah, of course.
There's some voices that, you know, that there's better singers than other people, but that's what's so neat about every human is they're different.
Sure.
How a voice is going to speak to them, and her voice, I don't think I've ever heard it where it didn't put a tear in my eye and a lump in my throat. She's a killer singer.
Have you ever, I've been experiencing this, and I don't know if it's because I'm drinking wine again or what, but have you ever recorded something and listened back to it and cried? Like just listening to your own thing?
Oh, I think if it's...
because it's good, not because you...
No, I think more because of a lyric, you know, of the story will have a tendency to get me more so than the sound of my voice. But but the combination of the story and like thinking, wow, I was a part of that. Yeah, I mean, I've got this new song I've recorded that I'm, you know, pretty. You know, it was written after George Jones passed away, and he was a really close friend of mine. And
Which is kind of incredible because he's kind of the grandfather of all of this.
He's pretty special.
He stopped loving her today.
Yeah.
That song, man.
Yeah.
My manager played me that song a couple of years ago and said, if you want to know where the bar is, not the alcohol bar, but where you're trying to go, this is where you're trying to go. And hearing that song, I was like, oh boy, I got a long ways to go. Yeah,
that was about as potent as it gets. But if you really want to love George Jones, go back and listen to his earliest records, late 50s, early 60s. I got a friend that says he was singing Hungry, and he sang different. He sang much different than he did in 1981. And that, you know, that early Buck Owens, early 60s, early Merle Haggard, I mean, those would be my three pinnacle guys of.
And so you were good friends with George. He passed away, and you wrote a song about him, or
it's called "I Feel a Sad One Coming On."
I feel a sad one coming on.
Yeah. And I sat with his wife last night, Nancy, at the CMAs, and so I'm, you know, always anxious for people to hear what I'm doing. You know, you never get tired of that. I never get jaded. I still think I'm getting better. As I do this, and even though I'm 56, my ears once again. I said they don't lie to me, and they tell me I'm writing better songs and singing better and all those things.
You know, I saw you on TV last night, and I told you over the phone, but I wanted to relay this to you. Like, seeing you got me emotional because you're going to be George Jones to a lot of people. You know, when it's your time to pass the torch on in life, those memories that you've created for people, you could see it just with you being in the audience. You know, George's wife came to you and gave you a big hug when they after they played his song, and you're a papa to this place in a lot of ways. Like, everybody believes in you, and if you did something weird, it would almost be like the universe would skip a beat or something. Like, they're counting on you being consistent like you've always been.
Well, that's flattering. I appreciate you saying that.
It's not flattering because it really is the truth. Like, you're going to be that. Like, you're already this big presence.
Well, the what I have to do for myself is never see myself as that. I still have to have my mentors. I still have to have my heroes. I realize that at some point I will be, an elder statesman of sorts for the town and for a lot of young singers and musicians and songwriters. And I'm grateful for that. If I've had an impact and people like what I've done and like who I've been and all those kinds of things, I'll feel really blessed. But it all, to me, boils down to I have a great understanding of how special the gifts I've been given are, and I'm very aware of that. But in turn, that doesn't entitle me to make me special. I really have it in great perspective that I have a good concept that the gifts are special, but that doesn't get you.
It's a weird line, though, isn't it, between like liking who you are and almost disliking? Because like if you have guilt and all the things, like sometimes not liking who you are makes you strive to be better at all of these things because you're like, oh, I'm never gonna get to that person or that thing that I think I'm capable of. And that line of self-deprecation and also accepting the reality of who you are, like it's a very fine line, isn't it? To like self-dislike and
yeah, but you have to be your worst critic. You can't be your biggest fan.
Yeah.
I think you have to be your worst critic.
Maybe that's the problem with rock, because I'm my biggest fan by far. I really am. So before I get into the last few questions and let you go back to your life, I wanted to ask you about something. Is there a moment or a thing or even a song that you regret that maybe changed the path of things, like or a song you wish you could take away, or a moment that you wish you could have handled better that you think about more than you should?
Oh God, yeah, countless.
Really? Countless?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't ever. That's what I try to teach my kids is you're not ever going to learn anything until you screw up. You're not ever going to. You got to make a mistake to learn something.
Yeah,
but
none of them are. But making mistakes is one thing. Having regrets is different. Like, you can't really even have regrets, right? You just have to let the mistakes be what teach you to not do that again. If you do it again, then that you become a jackass.
Yeah, I think so. It takes anybody that created something important, they failed so many more times than they succeeded.
Yeah,
and I think it's so much easier to react to success. If you succeed, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
I watched a lot of people react to it in a way that is not very pleasing, and that was a great lesson to learn.
Right.
But once again, I'm trying to get better, and I think that's you talked about. You self-deprecating. You wouldn't have ever done this in the first place if you weren't really driven.
Right.
And it's, I played golf with a guy who's a sports psychologist, and he said it's the reason you're successful.
Right.
Is because you're driven. If you were willing to accept mediocrity, you would have never gotten very good at what you were doing.
Well, one of my questions is always, is being driven a curse or a blessing or both? And just recently someone said, it's a curse. It is not a blessing. There is no satisfaction, and man, would it feel good if there was.
I don't know that I agree.
I don't either.
I don't think I agree. But
yeah, it's just like, pretty good lives come to those who are ambitious, because we're not going to be okay otherwise.
But it's not about perfect either. Perfect is unattainable, and it sounds pretty uninspiring.
Yeah, perfection sounds uninspiring. Like I did the Miss Universe. I mean, I didn't do her.
I understand.
I know you were.
I was going to let that one lay.
So we played on the Miss Universe last year, and these women are 6'5" or in heels, and I found myself not being attracted to them because they were so beyond the realm of what you see in your life. It was almost like seeing pictures of people or something. Like, have you ever stood next to an NFL team And they're not even human anymore. Like they're just so big and
so
they're so
massive.
different than they used to be that there's no there's no like they're not human. I can't like it would be like being attracted to an avatar. Like you know the movie Avatar, like one of the blue people. That's what all so like I don't even know what my point is. What am I talking about?
I think as you get older, you start to see from the inside out rather than from the outside in. Maybe you know.
Yeah,
it's like
maybe.
you're about as beautiful as I've ever seen, but I'm not sure that's
Yeah,
what
but
sounds
I'm not
real
sure I
appealing
care.
to me.
Yeah. Man, I remember my dad. My dad died last year, and he used to say, you know, I used to think sex was everything, and it is, but not when you get to my age. He was a pretty funny guy. So I just wanted to finish with these last few questions that my wife likes me to ask. One is, can I have all your money?
Your wife asked if
No,
you could
I'm
have
kidding.
all my money.
No, she didn't ask that. I just wanted to see if I could sneak that one in. I did want to. She likes to ask, how did you meet your wife?
Gosh, I met Amy in about 1991. We were doing we went to sing for the families of the soldiers at Fort Campbell.
Where was it? Fort Campbell?
Fort Campbell up in Clarksville, about 45 minutes from here. And we didn't even have a conversation really per se. We a bunch of artists went up to sing, and I don't even think we had a conversation. And then a couple of years later, we wound up doing a television show together in Tulsa. And just, you know, there was an undeniable thing that happened when she walked in the room and we looked at each other. You know, we're both married to different people, and I went, wow, well, so what, you know?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Right.
And nothing, you know? So, and I just found her to be, you know, as kind and welcoming of a human being as I'd ever met. And we said, well, let's be friends. We can be friends. We can do this, you know?
Yeah.
And we did, and we were. And tongues wagged, and a lot of bad things were said and that weren't true, and it's okay. You know, I understand how human nature is, and unfortunately, we all have a tendency to think the worst of people instead of the best of people. And she has an innate quality to only see the best in people.
Wow,
it's remarkable.
That's awesome. That's an amazing quality.
And that's how we met, doing a TV show in my home state in Oklahoma.
That's real nice, man. That's a great story. What's your best tour find? Like something you found by traveling that maybe not everybody knows? A burger joint or a record store or a place that you know, in San Francisco where you have to go hike or something that is the best thing that you look forward to when you go out.
You know, it's going to be golf courses.
Oh, yeah, cool. Where?
Getting to play some of the greatest golf courses in the world.
Have you played St. Andrews?
I haven't. I haven't got to play any.
You played Augusta, though, right?
Played Augusta and played Pebble Beach.
How'd you play?
Cypress.
How'd you play?
Pretty good.
Yeah?
Shot 2 over par first time around Augusta.
God damn. And you played from
And bogeyed the last
tips
2
too,
holes.
right?
No, they didn't have tips.
Oh.
They only set one set of tees up when you're out there
Wow,
playing
yeah,
with the
right,
members,
when you're
but
at that place. So how about Pebble Beach? How'd you play?
Pebble Beach never played very well there. That's a pretty tough place
Windy.
to play. Windy and
Carmel,
it's too
right?
beautiful. You know,
It's incredible.
I shot 68 at Cypress Point. That was a
Where's
career
that?
highlight. Cypress Point is the Augusta National of the coast.
Oh, wow.
It's a private club that's very, very shishi and very hard to get an invitation to play there. And
How'd you get it?
it was a fluke. A guy in my band, Tom Britt, had a brother that was a member, and I had no idea. You know, and my brother, he said, "Hey, my brother said he'd take you golfing if you want to." And I go, no, it's cool. I've got it covered. He said, "Well," he said he's a member at some place called Cypress something. I went, "Point?
Oh, wait, maybe you do have it covered.
Yeah, okay. I'd love to play."
That's awesome. And so those are your favorite courses then? Those
Yeah, I
special
just
ones?
love playing great golf courses. And then obviously I'm a big boy and I love my food. And people will call me often.
Is there a
and said,
good spot you found out there?
Oh, thousands.
And
then
then give me a couple. Do you know one in Seattle?
Seattle.
That's where I live.
I love. Well, it's a restaurant, but what's the name of it? It's a seafood restaurant. Something Air, the Ocean Air.
The Ocean Inn?
Ocean Air. It's called.
Oh, the Oceaneer. Huh. I don't know that place.
I think so. Maybe that's
Next
not
time
what
you
it's
go
called.
there, you have to go to the what's the pub that I like, Pargo? What's up? The Market,
In the market, the Pike Place Brewery.
the Pike Place Brewery. Incredible.
But
You
I'm
gotta-
always searching for a great
Yeah,
burger.
Pike Place Brewery.
Something like
Get a
that.
salmon sandwich. It's always wild. So obviously we talked about a bunch of this, but why do you do this? Like, why are you still doing this? And it sounds like you're going to slow down here, but still you do it.
Well, I would do it no matter what.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I think some people have a hard time believing. If you've been really successful, that I would have done it had I not been successful too. I would have still beaten my door down trying to
Right.
to get out there and play music in front of people.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
If it had been a club gig for $50 a night, I'd still be doing it.
Right. Well, I saw you, just for people listening, if you get to Nashville and you're here on a Monday night, you play as a band called Time Jumpers.
It's an 11-piece swing band. We play swing music.
It's nutty, kind of good.
It's a Western swing.
Do you
kind of
rehearse?
music. No. I mean, most of the tunes we have all been arranged and
There's standards
this and that, and then a lot of standards and old Bob Wills music and
It
old
sounds like you
country
rehearse
standards.
a lot.
It's just,
Is there a standout moment that you can tell us that you kind of already told us some, but like something that as a kid kind of made the difference for you? Like I always tell people how I ended up moving to LA and why I did and what gave me the courage to do it, or what gave you the idea that you were good enough.
oh gosh, maybe it might have been the first time I heard myself on the radio.
Oh, wow.
I was probably 16, 17. I'd made a record with a band I was in at home.
And they played it on the radio?
Played on the radio. This was a long time ago.
Wow, that's cool.
You could get local play and stuff, and
You didn't have to go
No.
take them prostitutes or anything to spin your records?
no. And I was on I-40 driving, and it was an AM radio station, and I can drive you right to the spot where I heard it.
Wow,
You
man,
know, and
that's
it
amazing.
came over, and I couldn't believe it. You
And
know,
you were like, this could be the thing.
yeah. And I
That's
had
great.
a little CB radio in my truck, and I got on there, and I said, "Hey,
Right.
they're playing my record on the radio."
Right,
and
right,
these
right.
truckers were tuning in. Hey, you're a pretty good kid, you know.
Oh, that's cool.
Whatever,
Did
but
you see
that-
the movie That Thing You Do?
Yes.
And was it like that moment?
Yeah.
That was supposed to be the town that I'm originally from, Erie, Pennsylvania.
Oh, I got you.
So then they go into the appliance store and you gotta listen. We're on the radio. Yeah, that thing you
and
do
it-
moment.
And to this day, it never gets old.
That movie?
No,
or the
hearing yourself on the radio.
Oh yeah, yeah. You still
just-
like it?
Yeah, I do. You know.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
fun.
I cringe at some of the records and go, "I wish I'd have done this," and I,
Yeah.
once again, self-deprecate myself into
Right.
the ground. But at the same time, it still feels pretty
yeah,
special.
it feels pretty great.
Yep.
So the last two questions are: what's next for you? Like, are you making? I know you're going to make another record with Ashley, I think, and you have a record that you're recording yourself, right?
I'm going to spend a lot of time trying to be creative. You know,
How many records do you put out? Like,
Well-
would you say you put out on a average
over the history, probably every couple of years.
every couple of years?
But time's not on my side, and I feel compelled to try to do more as much as I can. You know, I got inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2007, and it's inspired me to say, go earn it.
Did it?
Yeah.
I wondered about that. Like, I'm friends with people who have not been inducted into Hall of Fames.
Right.
And when you're not, you have to tell yourself, oh, no, that doesn't matter.
Oh man, it's the greatest. It's
So is it kind of like Pergo always talks about movie critics. And he's like, negative movie critiques don't affect me. If I want to go see a movie, I'm going to go see it. But a good
Exactly.
critique will actually inspire me to maybe go see it. Is that kind of the Hall of Fame thing where if you're not in, it's like, that doesn't affect me. But if you are in, it affects you positively.
did me.
Yeah.
You know, I can't speak for all those others, but
Like it's easy. It's when you say, "Man, a Grammy isn't everything," and then you look on your, you have maybe you might have all the Grammys. I don't know anyone who has
Lord.
one.
Yeah, well.
because you took them all. But like when I won a Grammy, I'm so glad that I did. But for some of the artists that I know that I adore don't have them, and they want them, and I go like, man, it's not going to change how great you are. You're amazing. Like, you're one of my favorites.
Well, there's so many people that are the best in the whole wide world that never won a Grammy.
Yeah.
That doesn't change anything. And you know what? In the history of all this music that's been recorded, whether somebody bought 10 million of them or 10 of them,
Right.
none of the notes changed.
Yeah.
You know, none
Yeah.
of the notes have ever changed because of it. So, I mean, it feels great to have some success and have
A
people
little bit of
appreciate what
validation
you do.
and
Exactly. Why
Being in
not?
the Hall of Fame can you get me into the rock and roll country or the country Hall of Fame, even though I'm not a country artist currently?
You're gonna have to really buckle down.
And then I guess the last thing is I'd like to say, thank you so much for doing this, but how can people find out more about you and your charities and the things that you and Amy do, and what are your websites, and do you it seems like you're not really a big Twitter guy or a Instagrammer.
Well, shoot you straight, I've never sent a text, and I'm not. It's just not. It's not my makeup. I like this. I like communicating face to face or on a phone or whatever. And maybe someday I'll bite the bullet and join the 21st century, but so far it hadn't happened.
Yeah, so far no way. But you still have websites that people can go to find out. Are they all vincegill.com?
Yeah, sure. Amy has the same thing, and
amygrant.com.
Yeah, I
and
think
then
so.
how about your foundations and your charities for people?
I don't have any foundations.
So you just go do awesome stuff for lots of other people's foundations.
Well, yeah, exactly. I want to just help out anybody that asks me if I can. Have time. I'm not trying to. And I've never felt like there was such a thing as a bad charity. Everybody needs a little help.
Right.
And so.
Is there a favorite of yours that you?
No, not really. And I do a little bit of everything for everybody, and that feels the best to me.
Right. Is there anything that I missed that you were hoping that I would ask you about?
I didn't have a clue what you're going to ask at any point. So hell, I'm all right.
Man, well, I hope that I get to see a whole lot more, man. And I hope I get to podcast you again in another 5 or 10 years and find out all the great stuff that you've done beyond here. And can I have that guitar? Can I have the one you're holding?
I can't. No. I can't give this one up.
How many do you have?
Too many.
Do you know?
One more is never enough.
Man, you sound like me when it comes to wine. All right. Well, thanks so much, Vince Gill.
All right, Patrick. Thanks, buddy.
All right.
That was Vince Gill here on the Patcast. The deluxe edition of his most recent album, Bakersfield, was just released a couple weeks ago. On that, he teams up with steel guitar player Paul Franklin to perform the songs of Buck Owens and Merle Haggard. He doesn't do much tweeting or Facebooking, but you can find all the latest news about Vince Gill at vincegill.com. And you can very often find him on Monday nights in Nashville playing with the Time Jumpers. I think it's at 3rd and Lindsley, possibly the most technically gifted country band that I've ever heard. Check out Patcast Podcast at Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to go to our website, it's patcast.com. And you can go to iTunes. I love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.